There is a reason your higher self waits until nightfall to speak. Not morning, not afternoon, not during the noise of the day when your mind is cluttered with expectations, responsibilities, and distractions. The message comes before midnight, the most fragile, powerful, subliminal window of the entire day, because this is the one moment when your inner defenses begin to collapse. When the world quiets just enough for the truth to rise. When your soul steps forward and your ego finally steps aside. Tonight is not an ordinary night. And what you felt today was not an ordinary feeling. You may have brushed it off, that sudden heaviness in your chest, that strange wave of emotion, that moment you paused and thought, something feels off, but I don't know what. You may have blamed stress, exhaustion, or coincidence, but that was the first signal, the opening of the window. Your higher self has been waiting for this moment, the moment where your awareness is unstable enough to be reached, but strong enough to understand. Why midnight? Because midnight is the point where your conscious mind begins to loosen its grip. It is the doorway between timelines where your past is fading and your future is forming. Your soul knows this. Your intuition knows this. Your higher self uses this window because it's when you're closest to the truth, whether you realize it or not. Think about the nights you felt restless without knowing why. Think about the nights you couldn't sleep even though your body was exhausted. Think about the nights when your thoughts felt louder, sharper, or unusually emotional. That's not random, it's resonance. David Icke often says that higher consciousness speaks when the noise of the matrix fades. The noise fades at night. When the world slows down, the vibration of your spirit rises. When everything external becomes quiet, everything internal becomes loud. Tonight, something is rising. Your higher self, the future you, the expanded you, the version of you beyond fear and illusion, has been trying to reach you, not to frighten you, but to redirect you, to warn you, to guide you. Because something in your life is shifting, and the choices you make next will shape not just your tomorrow, but the timeline you step into. This is why the message can't wait until morning. Morning is too late. By morning, distractions return. Your mind becomes busy. Your intuition becomes muffled. The message loses clarity. The signal weakens. But before midnight, every layer of your consciousness is more open, sensitive, and receptive. You are not fully in the physical world, nor fully in the spiritual one. You are suspended between them in a space where truth can finally reach you. And that is why the message is coming now. Something in your life is out of alignment. A decision is approaching. A turning point is forming. And your higher self is trying to catch you before you drift too far from the path intended for you. This isn't a warning of danger, it's a warning of awakening. Your future self sees the timeline you're meant to step into. Your present self is hesitating at the threshold. Your higher self is trying to pull you forward urgently, gently, unmistakably. Tonight, the door is open. Tonight, the message is close. And before midnight, you must hear it. Long before your higher self delivers a clear message, your body and mind begin reacting to the approaching transmission, not with words, not with visions, but with sensations subtle, powerful, and almost impossible to fully ignore once you understand what they mean. What you felt today and especially what you began feeling as night approached, were not ordinary emotions. They were the first physical signs that your higher consciousness was trying to break through. Spiritual messages arrive in vibrations before they arrive in understanding. Think back to the last 24 hours. Maybe you felt unusually restless, as if your energy was buzzing beneath your skin. Maybe you felt drained for no obvious reason, even after resting. Maybe there was a sudden anxiety that didn't match your circumstances. Or maybe you felt sadness rising from nowhere deep, heavy, ancient. These sensations are not random. They are the symptoms of internal alignment. When your higher self begins transmitting a message, your emotional field reacts first. The body interprets spiritual truth as intensity because it cannot translate higher awareness into physical form. So instead, it sends signals, a tightness in the chest, a shift in your breathing, a weight behind your eyes, a sudden urge to withdraw from people or noise, an unexplainable pull to be alone. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of awakening. Your higher self is not far away. It is layered within you. The deeper layer tries to rise, but your current life, responsibilities, and fears push back, creating friction. And that friction is exactly what you felt today. It feels like emotional turbulence because your soul is trying to bring something into your conscious awareness, but your old identity isn't ready to let go. This internal battle shows up as unstable emotions because your intuition is trying to surface. Racing thoughts because your mind is trying to interpret the message. Sudden memories because your past is reacting to your future. Discomfort in your body because energy is shifting too quickly. Many mistake these symptoms for stress or anxiety, but stress doesn't appear out of silence. Anxiety doesn't arrive fully formed without a trigger. Random discomfort doesn't come with a sense of purpose. But spiritual transmission do, and your higher self sent one today. Notice how the sensations came in waves, leaving you calm one moment and unsettled the next. This is how your energetic field expands. It contracts and releases, contracts and releases, preparing your consciousness for the clarity that is coming. The intensity you felt was your inner world adjusting to a frequency that is higher than your current reality. If you felt disconnected from your usual routine, if conversations felt shallow, if familiar environments suddenly felt draining, if people's energy felt heavier than usual, these are classic signs that your vibration is shifting, your awareness is elevating, your intuition is sharpening. You are beginning to see the world not from the identity you've carried for years, but from the perspective of the person you are becoming. This is why the symptoms feel unfamiliar. You are stepping into a version of yourself your body has not yet adjusted to, and your higher self knows exactly what you need next. These symptoms were preparation, the energetic clearing before the message arrives. Your higher self shakes your internal world so you will slow down, become present, and pay attention. Without these sensations, most people would ignore the spiritual pull entirely, but you didn't ignore it. You felt it, you questioned it, and now you are ready to understand it. The message is coming, and in the next chapter, you will finally see what it means. For most people, discomfort is something to escape. They numb it, ignore it, distract themselves from it. But what you felt today, that persistent heaviness, that sudden emotional spike, that quiet inner pull, wasn't something to escape. It was something to decode. Because discomfort is the first language your higher self uses when the message is too important to whisper. Your soul has been trying to get your attention, but it knew you wouldn't stop for gentle signals. So it sent something stronger, a pressure you couldn't explain, a feeling you couldn't ignore, a heaviness that followed you even when nothing was wrong. This is the message beneath the discomfort. You are outgrowing the life you're still trying to fit into. That is why the discomfort felt so strange, so personal, so targeted. It wasn't about your circumstances. It wasn't about people around you. It wasn't even about your thoughts. It was your intuition pushing against the walls of a reality that has become too small for you. Discomfort is the soul's alarm clock. It rings when you stay in situations that your spirit has already left. It rings when you hold on to habits that no longer match your future. It rings when you suppress truths that are ready to rise. It rings when your higher self is preparing you for a shift your mind hasn't caught up to. That is why today felt emotionally unstable. Your inner world was rearranging itself. You might have felt a sudden resistance to things you usually tolerate, people who drain you, routines that cage you, obligations that don't align with who you're becoming. This resistance is part of the message. It is your higher self showing you unmistakably what no longer resonates with your frequency. The discomfort wasn't meant to punish you. It was meant to redirect you. Your soul knows you've reached a point where your old patterns can no longer carry you forward. It knows you are standing at the edge of a higher timeline, but still holding on to the identity of the person you used to be. And that tension between who you were and who you're becoming manifests as emotional friction. That friction is the message. Think back to the exact moment the discomfort peaked. What were you thinking about? Who were you with? What decision were you avoiding? What truth were you refusing to admit? Your higher self uses emotional spikes to illuminate the parts of your life where you are dimming your own light. The discomfort was pointing to something you've been pretending not to see, a choice you need to make, a chapter you need to close, a path you need to follow, or a truth you need to face. You felt the message in your body because your mind would have ignored it. And there is something else, something even deeper. Discomfort also appears when your soul is preparing to reveal a new desire, a new purpose, a new direction. Sometimes the message isn't about what you must leave behind, but about what is finally ready to come forward. That restlessness you felt wasn't fear. It was readiness. It was your higher self saying, you are no longer aligned with your old limitations. You have stayed small for too long. You are meant to move, and the moment is now. Every awakening begins with discomfort, not because you are breaking, but because you are expanding. The discomfort was your confirmation. Your clarity is coming next. In the following chapter, you will discover what tried to block you from hearing this message sooner and why the resistance grew stronger as the truth got closer. If the message from your higher self is so important, why didn't you hear it sooner? Why did the signs feel distant, blurred, or confusing? Why did the truth arrive wrapped in discomfort instead of clarity? Because something stood in the way. Not a physical force, not an external enemy, but an internal barrier made of every belief, fear, and emotional wound you've carried through your life. A barrier built slowly, layer by layer, every time you doubted yourself, every time you ignored your intuition, every time you accepted a version of reality that didn't belong to you. This barrier is subtle but powerful. It distorts every message your soul tries to send. David Icke often describes this as the perceptual fog, a haze that forms around your awareness when you're too entangled in the external world and disconnected from your inner one. And last night, when the message tried to reach you, the fog reacted instantly. You may have noticed your mind becoming unusually loud, replaying old memories, regrets, insecurities, and fears. Not because they were relevant, but because they were familiar. The fog uses familiarity as a weapon. If it can make you believe that old patterns are safer than new truths, it can keep you from awakening. Every time your intuition tries to rise, the fog pulls you back with thoughts like, what if I'm overthinking? What if nothing is actually changing? What if I'm imagining it? What if it's safer to stay the same? These thoughts are not your inner wisdom. They are the echoes of everything that has kept you small. Think back to how your body felt when the message was close. Your chest tightened, your heart raced, your mind spun in circles. You felt grounded one moment and lost the next. This is exactly how obstruction feels. The fog tries to drown the message in emotion, so you'll second guess the very guidance meant to liberate you. And it intensifies right before a breakthrough. Why? Because the closer you get to the truth, the more the old identity fears disappearing. Your current identity, built on habits, routines, and past experiences, is terrified of change. It would rather keep you in familiar suffering than let you step into unfamiliar freedom. That's why when your higher self tries to help you grow, your old identity tries even harder to keep you the same. You felt this as resistance, soon tiredness, unexpected irritability. Overthinking that came from nowhere, a strange heaviness that didn't match your day. These weren't coincidences. They were your old self trying to protect its existence. But here's the truth. Resistance is the clearest sign that the message matters. The fog doesn't intensify when you're drifting. It intensifies when you're awakening. It grows louder when your intuition grows stronger. It becomes heavier when your awareness becomes clearer. It becomes aggressive when your soul begins breaking free. And last night, your higher self broke through the fog, not by overpowering it, but by making it impossible for you to ignore. Every distraction, every emotional spike, every confusing thought was actually the fog revealing itself to you. Once you see the obstruction, it loses its control. And once the obstruction weakens, the message can finally emerge. You are now standing in the space between resistance and revelation. The old identity is weakening. The fog is thinning. Your awareness is lifting. And the message your higher self has been trying to send is finally ready to reveal itself. In the next chapter, the truth becomes clear. There is a moment in every awakening when the noise finally breaks, the fog loosens its grip, and the message that has been circling you for months, maybe years, finally steps forward, not as a whisper, not as a hint, but as truth. Last night, you reached that moment. It didn't arrive with angels or trumpets. It didn't appear as a booming voice in the sky. It came in the only form truth ever comes. As a recognition you can no longer deny. What your higher self has been trying to tell you is simple, but it is also the single most disruptive realization of your entire life. You are not living the life you came here to live. You have been living a version of yourself shaped by expectations, survival, habits, fears, and the invisible cages built around your perception. And last night, your soul finally refused to stay silent. The pressure you felt, the emotions that rose out of nowhere, the strange clarity mixed with confusion, the sudden sense that something was off, but you didn't know what. That wasn't chaos. That was communication. Your higher self has been trying to awaken you to one truth. You are being called into a different timeline, a higher frequency version of your life, and the window to step into it has opened. This is why you've felt restless without knowing why. It's why your old patterns feel suffocating. It's why familiar environments now feel foreign. It's why you sense that something is changing even when nothing looks different. Your higher self is pushing you toward alignment, and alignment is not gentle. It shakes you. It breaks your patterns. It exposes what no longer belongs. It forces you to confront everything you've avoided. It burns away illusions you thought were permanent, because you cannot carry your old self into your new life. The message beneath all the intensity you felt last night is this: stop pretending you're small. Stop living in ways that drain you. Stop staying in places your soul has already left. You felt the urgency because the shift is happening now, not someday. Your higher self is trying to move you into a frequency where you speak your truth without fear. You stop betraying your intuition. You stop apologizing for your calling. You stop shrinking to fit other people's comfort. You start living with awareness instead of autopilot. The discomfort you've been feeling is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is completing. Your old identity is dissolving. Your old timeline is collapsing. Your old limitations are cracking. You are entering a phase where the universe stops responding to who you used to be and begins responding only to who you truly are. This is why certain relationships suddenly feel misaligned, why your career feels heavier, why your thoughts feel sharper, why your emotions feel louder, why coincidences keep happening that don't feel coincidental. Your higher self is redirecting you, not away from something, but towards something, toward your actual path, toward your actual identity, toward the life that matches your soul's blueprint. Everything that is falling apart right now is falling apart for you, not against you. Everything that is rising with you, not beyond you. You are not losing control. You are regaining clarity. The message last night was not a warning. It was not a threat. It was not fear-based. It was a summoning, a call into the next version of your life, the one you were always meant to step into, but were not yet ready to claim. Now you are ready, and in the next chapter, you'll discover what your higher self needs you to do before midnight tonight. There comes a moment in every awakening when the universe stops nudging and starts demanding, not out of force, but out of necessity, because your soul can no longer afford delay. Last night wasn't random. And it wasn't a coincidence, it was a threshold. And tonight before midnight, you will stand at the center of that threshold. You may not realize it yet, but you are in a narrow energetic window, a corridor, where an old version of you is fading and a new version is waiting to step forward. This window doesn't stay open forever. It doesn't wait for your convenience. It opens when your soul reaches a frequency where change becomes non-negotiable. Your higher self brought you here because your life cannot continue on the trajectory it has been moving. Something must shift, something must be released, something must be chosen. The message that tried to reach you last night wasn't simply information, it was instruction. Your higher self is asking you to make a decision before midnight. Will you continue living from fear, or will you begin living from awareness? Because one of these paths leads you into another cycle of confusion, repetition, emotional exhaustion, and spiritual sleepwalking, and the other leads you into alignment, clarity, intuition, and the life you came here to live. This isn't about dramatic action. You don't have to quit your job, end a relationship, book a retreat, or throw away everything you own. It starts with something far simpler, a single conscious choice to stop ignoring yourself. That's the true shift. That's the real crossing. That's the doorway only you can walk through. Your higher self doesn't need you to be perfect. It doesn't need you to be enlightened. It doesn't need you to have all the answers. It needs you to be willing to trust your intuition, even when your mind argues, willing to follow what feels aligned, even when it scares you, willing to let go of what drains you, even when it feels familiar, willing to slow down long enough to hear the messages hidden beneath your impulses. Because awakening isn't a moment, it's a direction, and tonight marks your pivot. If you pay attention to your body right now, you'll feel it, a slight pulling sensation, a pressure in your chest, a stirring in your awareness. That is not anxiety. That is not fear. That is your higher self aligning your internal compass. You are being prepared. Prepared to see people clearly, not as who they pretend to be, but as the frequency they carry. Prepared to recognize opportunities, not logically, but intuitively. Prepared to break patterns that once felt impossible to escape. Prepared to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Tonight, before midnight, a choice must be made. Will you shrink into the familiar identity that the world designed for you? Or will you step into the identity your soul designed for itself? One path repeats your past. The other path rewrites your future. You already know which one your higher self is calling you toward. You felt it last night. You feel it right now. Do not let the fog pull you back. Do not let fear speak louder than truth. Do not let habit overpower awareness. This moment will not come again in the same way. And when you step into the new frequency, even with one small decision, the universe responds instantly. Doors open, people shift, synchronicities multiply. Life begins to bend around your awareness instead of your fear. Your higher self is waiting on the other side of midnight. And now the choice is yours. Must subscribe to watch more videos.